Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me, Dave Knight, for number 64 in our weekly releases of our 9 p.m. Sunday Settler. And this is another one of our video and audio podcasts that I'm releasing in Series 7. A warm welcome to you all as we get straight into this 9 p.m. Sunday Settler. These weekly individual podcasts are wrapped up into Bulletproof Yourself Wellbeing packages, which can be accessed via my website, sundaysettler.com, clicking on the Bulletproof Yourself page. This week's Sunday Settler is entitled Crying Like a Man, and it's another powerful topic that along with many other topics, that I'm really and truly passionate about speaking to, because we'll explore how someone's thoughts and opinions may have stayed with us for a long period of time, and we've carried them with us to the point where they are now our long-held beliefs. They're very much part of our belief system, and how they can hold us back from expressing ourselves, let's say, either through crying or through sharing our feelings with someone in a heartfelt conversation that could really turn things around for us, to release that pressure valve, let's say. And this is all focused on positivity and having the freedom to challenge those beliefs that perhaps we've been carrying with us. But this is your time for 10 to 15 minutes, so please get yourself into your relaxing space. Whether you're a male or female listener, you may have heard those words spoken at some point in your lifetime. Boys or men don't cry. You shouldn't cry. Either said to yourself or someone close to you, perhaps. But the true impact of those words can last a generation or a lifetime, can't they? I've seen it so many times in my work, and I've come across so many people who've carried the burden of someone else's opinion, expectation, or outdated belief system with them through time, that has become their own reality, to the point where we may struggle to express our emotions, let's say, within our own relationships in adulthood. And whilst growing up, I was very fortunate to have been raised in a stable, loving family, and a lot of us may have experienced something similar. However, many of us may have experienced something completely different to that. Instability, no love, and upheaval. Whatever the experience may have been. But regardless of the experience, one thing that I always felt comfortable to do from a younger age was to cry. And whether that be if I hurt myself physically, or in the endless hours of sport that I played, for example, or on an emotional level, if I was left out of social groups, or received bad news, or things didn't go to plan, if relationships ended, or if I didn't achieve something that I aimed to achieve, I was always allowed to cry. I never once heard those words, "Come on, pull yourself together," or "Boys don't cry," said to me. I never heard those words. Excuse me. But I know many men and women who, when they were younger, heard those words, "You shouldn't cry, boys don't cry," and still hear those words every day now in their heads. A message that they have carried with them through time, to the point where it has now become their belief system. And I say females as well, because I've come across many females as clients who have also heard those words said to them. So this is absolutely applicable across the board here. It really is. However, who was it that muttered those words to them in the first place? Was it an older brother or sister, a father, a grandfather, a mother, a headmaster, another person in authority? the message then being reinforced by things we've then read or heard from others over time. But imagine whatever the message was that we've carried with us up to now, to this point, that it's no longer feeling like someone else's opinion. It is what we truly believe to be the case. We really believe it's true. The idea of crying for many is not only shedding tears, it now takes on a much broader meaning. The act of sharing our feelings, opening up to someone and having healthy conversations. Yet the belief that we might carry around with us that boys or girls shouldn't cry was just someone's viewpoint, someone's opinion. It's not real. It's not matter of fact. And I'd like us to consider a few scenarios in our earlier years in which we were hurt physically or mentally, and we may have the opinion given to us that we can't cry or express ourselves, and we take that opinion through time to adulthood. The situations we encounter during adulthood with those opinions now are a firm part of our belief system. And they're exactly the same as we experienced as a child, only relative and in the context of the stage of our lives right now. Let's say someone once told us that we're boring or stupid, and so tried to make them laugh by being silly in the classroom to impress them. Now we might try and drink more alcohol than that other person to be respected by them, or use substances perhaps, commit crime, those kind of things. Perhaps someone once told us we're the reason our parents split, and now we really believe that we don't deserve to be in the relationship that we find ourselves in. Perhaps in the playground when we were younger, someone in a group told us that we can't join in the game with them. Now we might be being bullied at work and being excluded at some point. Perhaps someone once said, "You'll never achieve that. You'll never get that." And now we consider ourselves to be a failure in the things that we do, even before we've started. It's not worth trying, as we already know what the outcome will be. Well, how do we know? How do we really know? These are all real life situations that I've either experienced myself or I've been told by others, my clients, of their experiences, let's say. But here is what is really important to know. We all encounter situations and we all feel like having a cry at times, and even if we do actually consider ourselves to be that strong person, that individual who takes things in their stride most of the time, with most things that we do, that can, metaphorically speaking, barge down that no door and make it into a yes door, to make things happen, to find solutions. However, feeling like we want to cry is normal. It's absolutely normal. It's a normal feeling. My goodness, for some years ago I went through a period where I felt like and did allow myself to cry quite a bit. My challenges were all related to self-identity and wondering what is next. What do I do next? Can I do anything else? Those kind of questions. I isolated myself and avoided situations and stayed in the comfort zone, so to speak. Sometimes not even knowing that I was doing so. But I consider I was lucky enough again to be in an environment where I could be how I wanted to be, how I felt like being, which I think is so important. But what if we don't feel like we're in that kind of environment? What if we don't feel it's safe to share and express ourselves in the way that feels natural to us, and that we have to keep it inside due to the fear of being judged? Sometimes the feeling that we need to cry can be so strong, can't it? It really can. However, if we have the belief that we can't cry, we might need to find another way to escape somehow and express the feeling in another form. And it may seem like our only options are to run away, to use substances, to quit the job, to find anything that makes us feel better, or to do something to ourselves or even others. Our belief is not real. It is a thought that we have carried through time, and it can become so self-limiting. And whilst it might seem so compelling, in that it looks like it's real, it's reality, it's not. And in the context of crying, if we're not feeling like we should express ourselves in that way, I'd like to invite you to be curious and question. Use your gift that you have to be curious. And where does that come from? Where does that feeling come from? I encourage anyone listening or watching to this podcast to take that as a positive and empowering message that the belief is not real. We can cry. We're allowed to, and it is normal. It's a normal feeling to want to cry at times. It's a way of expressing ourselves. It really is. And as with many other experiences we have as a human being, we can be fearful of the feeling to want to cry. And that in itself can be quite a challenge, being fearful of the feeling of wanting to cry. And it can place a barrier in itself to expressing ourselves and choosing to bottle things up instead. My other invitation is to consider that it is okay to feel the need to cry by ourselves if it feels safer to do that. It really is. If it is though we cry with others, and how they react to us crying is not something we can control. That's them. We can never control other people and their responses. If they respond in a way that doesn't seem to be supportive of us, that is all based on their own opinion, discomfort, perhaps their own belief system. But again, it doesn't make it real. And I mentioned earlier how crying may take on a broader meaning in terms of the expression of our feelings to someone. And if we can share with someone how we're feeling, what challenges we're experiencing at the moment in a heartfelt, loving conversation, it might be all we need to do that helps to change the trajectory of our life. We may also find that the environment that we're sharing in is not as scary, and it's not what we imagined or believed it to be for so long. Perhaps a contradiction to the belief we've carried with us for so long. It may be that the person we're sharing with is understanding, is with us, is listening, all those kind of things. Now, how good would that feel? And if that does happen, what does that mean to other environments, in inverted commas, that have been created with other beliefs that we've carried? Is someone who has lots of money better off than us? Is someone who has a great career happier than us? We must be under a certain weight to be seen as beautiful. Is someone who's studied to a higher level more knowledgeable than us? Must we have those 3 holidays per year to feel happier and less stressed? We need those substances to win and then be adored by others. Is someone who achieves things all the time a better person or more successful? Or Do we need that bigger car or house to be respected more? It doesn't necessarily work like that, and we can be suspicious of our beliefs and have the gift to be curious, to question, does the reality that we've created really exist at all? Now, I dedicate my time to working with as many people as possible through my products and to share what I know in order to empower people to maintain the mental health and well-being that they were born with. What I know is that the way we manage our mental health and the beliefs we carry with us can be contaminated by misunderstandings. And it's damaging. Now, it really is. It influences us. It can be self-limiting, it isolating, and quite often sends us towards an unhealthy path, further away from who we are, and prevents us from being the person that we want to be and who we really can be. And a further invitation that I'd like to offer is, if anything I've mentioned in this podcast is something like you, someone like you rather, or someone you know of, or please consider how you might do one thing differently the next time you feel like crying, the next time you want to cry. Could you allow yourself to cry and not judge yourself for it? Who could you speak to? What would that mean to you if you could do that? See, you're allowed to be curious and to question long-held beliefs and consider them not to have any influence over you any longer. They don't need to have that influence over you. And the topic for this podcast is a powerful topic that, with the best of my ability, I've approached with as much sensitivity as I know how. And I've shared my own experiences as a way to try and lead the way, if you like, to say that it's okay if we want to cry, to release that pressure valve. We've considered it in some detail as to how possibly long-held beliefs get in the way of us being who we want to be, and that those beliefs may not serve us anymore. They might be outdated, perhaps. They're not real. As always, my intention is for the message to be one of empowerment, positivity and optimism, and freedom to be able to express our emotions in a safe environment. And whether that is through crying or talking about feelings without being judged, we never know. We might just never know that the environment that we thought was scary, that we thought was going to be judgmental, we might be surprised that it's not, that it is loving and caring, and that we are able to share when we need to. But I appreciate you listening to this podcast, and if it's been of interest or useful to you in any way, please help us to share the impact of this work across your platforms by liking, following and sharing. And if you haven't done already, please subscribe to our newsletter via sundaysettler.com. And if you're feeling a little lost or stuck at the moment and would find it beneficial to have a chat with someone regarding a challenge in your life, call me and we can take it from there. And if you quote Cry Like a Man 10, you'll receive a 20-minute free intake call, 10% off your first full session with me, and availability over the telephone in between sessions to clarify anything that you feel as though you need to. But thanks again for listening, and I look forward to being in touch with you in the week and with our next podcast next Sunday. Take care, everyone.